This is Akashwani. Time for a weekly program, Our Guest. I hand over the mic to the show host, Nitish Arora, for the same.
Hello and good morning to all the listeners of Akashwani. Every individual holds a different perspective of looking and expressing things. While some of us remain silent observers only, yet there are many who take to various fields of creative expression and love to showcase it to the world. One such field of creative expression is filmmaking, and within filmmaking there are various formats of presentation. One of them is short filmmaking, and we have in our studios one such short filmmaker, Jasmine Kaur. Jasmine is National Award winning filmmaker largely into producing short films and documentaries. Her short film Sanj and Amoli won the prestigious National Award in 2004 and 2018 respectively. Jasmine was recently in Delhi with her film Ravi being selected for the Habitat Film Festival. Jasmine, welcome to All India Radio.
Hi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to talk to the audience about my work and whatever else you want to know from me.
So you are in Delhi for a festival of short films.
Yes.
And your film was one of the film that was on display.
Yes. Habitat, the India Habitat Center, they run their annual film festival, which is a pan-India film festival, and they celebrate the best of Indian cinema, which has been over the last 2 years, which has been released or made. So
why so to say? I'm sure this is the best cinema.
Yeah, it is. I think I'm very critical of my own work. So I tend to take kind of a backseat when I talk about my work. But if somebody selects my work, so I, in the sense, say, okay, it must be good, that's why it's there. So I think that's the reason. But yes, so Habitat Center had its 15th edition of their film festival, and in which they have both feature films, documentaries, as well as short films. So in the short film section, they had specially curated a couple of films, and amongst which was my short film Ravi, which was screened last weekend.
We'll definitely talk about Ravi, but first I want to know more about short films. Like we have cinema halls wherein your feature films are shown. Regular audience is there. Then we have documentaries, more or less many television channels run it. Short film, is it a new genre or it's like pretty old? And
no, it's not a new genre. Short films have always been there. In fact, even someone as great as Satyajit Ray has made short films. So it's always been there. It's a different format in terms of, brevity, where brevity is the key. You can tell some stories, they lend themselves beautifully to short format, and they may not be ideal for a feature film. So in that sense, the filmmaker has to decide which form the story will lend itself best to, whether a short film or a feature film or a documentary. So in that sense, especially for film schools, they do a lot of short films because that's the training ground for film students. So in India also, the best film schools that we have, the film school that I come from, the Film and Television Institute of India in Pune, or there is the Satyajit Ray Film Institute in Kolkata. So all of these institutes, our training ground is to teach us the craft through the format of short films. So which is what we work on.
Which means this is more or less a tool of academics. So where do you get your audience from? Like anything that you produce, you need to showcase it to people. Is it only for the festivals, or then like there is some other forum where you can like...
So it's not really, initially it used to be in a sense a tool of academics, or I would say if a certain organization would commission a short film for say as a PSA or for public service consumption or things like that. But nowadays the scenario is changing because the OTT platforms, if you go to any of these OTT platforms, the private players which are there in the market, you see a lot of short films which are there. So the thing is that they tend to find their audience, but if we are talking about money making, that's still a question which it really needs to be answered on that.
Then why should anybody like produce a short film if he cannot make money and is spending from his or her own pocket?
So I think somewhere you need to be a little mad. There has to be a little madness in you if you're in this field. I honestly would say that.
How mad are you?
I'm not that mad, but I think I'm very practically mad, only to the extent that I know where I can take a calculated risk. So,
Okay, which means these films do make some money.
yes, they do. And also, it's not just so. What happens is the primary audience for a short film, I personally feel, is the film festival circuit, wherein if your film does really well, you get noticed as a filmmaker, and then it also sometimes acts as a stepping stone for you as a professional to get into the feature film space. But then there are filmmakers, really celebrated filmmakers like say Vishal Bhardwaj sir. He has just made a short film which is called Fursat, which is out on one of the leading OTT platforms. So for him, it's not about trying to make a name for himself or trying to. So for him, the reasons would be completely different. The story that he wanted to tell probably lent itself beautifully to the short film format rather than doing a feature film.
Any filmmaker is not only a commercial thing, he's also somebody who's like, he's very creative also, and he wants to like satisfy his creative urge also, which means that short films is something wherein he can satisfy his creative urges.
Exactly. Also, I think when you're working in the feature film format, a lot is riding in a sense that a lot is at stake. There's a lot of money which is pumped in, and the commercial factors are always at play. So for me personally, if I'm making an independent feature film, I would really be, whoever's producing the film, I would really be at their mercy in a sense to include certain things or to work around the storyline in a certain way which would have commercial implications, which would attract.
Your madness will not prevail.
Yeah, maybe, but I think you also need to be very, very practical that you are ultimately making the film for the audience. If I think that I can make a feature film and then play it at my home and my family and friends can say, wow, you've made a very great film, that's also something I'm not looking at. But there is a certain kind of filmmaking I think I'm capable of. My strengths lie in certain kind of filmmaking, so I would want to, and there is an audience for those kind of films today also, because the audience is becoming more and more cinema literate. A lot of world cinema is available to the audience via the festivals, as well as there are a lot of streaming platforms which showcase a lot of meaningful cinema.
Let's talk about this Habitat Festival, and lots of films are on display here. So you said you got audience for this. Let's say, because we can't invite that number of people for a small auditorium. So if the people want to access these movies which were shown here, how can they do that?
So depends really, because most of the films, what they do for any film that you make, for say a short film or a document, it has about a year to 2 years of life of a festival run. So like for instance, my film, short film Ravi, it made its debut at the New York Indian Film Festival, which happened in May 2022, and we are 1 year down the line, so it's kind of completing its festival run now. So once a film does complete their festival run, it could, if it does really well, it could continue for 2 years, but that's the maximum. After that, the filmmakers put it out to the public, so they end up with deals with one of the platforms, or one of the distribution partners would pick up the film. If, like for instance, if I can, All That Breathes, the documentary which was there for the Oscars, so that is HBO has procured that film, so it is available on their content. So it was available on Hotstar till about 2 months back, so but right now I think it's available on HBO. So different distribution channels, they pick up these films and then they distribute it to mainly OTT platforms. So nowadays that factor is helpful for filmmakers, smaller filmmakers like us, that we can get a chance of showcasing even our short films to a general audience. Otherwise, earlier that was not the case.
Now we have a concept of reels. How different are reels from these short films, and how short is a short film? And what is the difference between a short film and a documentary?
Okay, so first we'll talk about reels. I think reels are something, they also require another skill set, I think, which I personally don't have. But I think in today's world, filmmaking has actually been democratized. All of us, we learnt on film cameras, we learnt on the analog systems, and we valued the concept of that one frame that we have. But nowadays the technology has come down to everybody has a phone camera and they can shoot everything. So in that sense, I think that freedom is there. Yes, reels are also a kind of filmmaking, if you come to think of it. So it is just one medium of expressing yourself. How far it will kind of sustain itself, that I'm not sure of. But
they don't have a festival run.
Yeah, they don't have a festival run, but because I think also it's for very quick public consumption. I think we are getting into that generation where everything is very fast paced, and we want everything to be consumed very fast, and people don't have patience. So
fast food generation.
30 seconds, 1 second. So like, to answer your question, how short is a short film? It could be a 1 minute, it could be a 2 minute thing, or it could be 15 minutes. But generally, if we're talking festivals, so they make a very, very clear distinction between short films and a feature length film, because for entry purposes and their rules and regulations. So some festivals keep it under 40 minutes. Some even keep it under, say, 60 minutes. And I think 60 minutes and beyond is a feature film length. But mostly, I think roughly 40 to 45 is the length that is kept.
For a 15 minutes program, which is a very short program, I have exhausted most of my questions. Is there anything that you want to let our audience know about short film making and short films?
I think short films it's a very, very beautiful medium in terms of if you have a story, because I feel every story finds its own form, and short film also, what you asked earlier, the difference between short film and documentary. A short film could also be a documentary. So short film, when we talk, it's essentially about the length we are talking about, but it could both be fiction as well as documentary. So either ways it could be. And I think also as a filmmaker, if someone's an aspiring filmmaker, short film is a very, very good way to hone your craft, because you will go wrong. We all go wrong. Even now we go wrong. So many years down in the career, every film you make, you still find problems with that. So when there are lesser risks, and before you move on to the longer formats, I think it's a good idea to hone your craft through the idea of short films.
I seriously now feel that it is not easy to sum up the short films in just 15 minutes, and I am going to have part 2 of this interview. So let's continue with it, because there are lots of your answers have thrown in lots of questions as well. We were talking about short films. Short films essentially takes us back to the evolution of cinema. The initial films that were made were all short films technically. They were just a single shot. Gradually, as the art of cinema evolved, shorts were joined together to tell stories and to convey emotions. Films like The Great Train Robbery by Edwin S. Porter and A Trip to the Moon explored the full potential of short storytelling. In Russia, shorts were used to convey intellectual ideas and to spread the ideology of the Bolshevik Revolution. Comedies and even science fiction short films had a good run before the advent of full-length feature films. Shorts continued to exist, but because of lack of distribution opportunities and high production costs, it remained restricted to film schools and film festivals. The transition from analog to digital gave a fresh lease of life to short films. Technology democratized cinema and made the medium accessible to anyone who has a story to tell. From IG reels to professionally produced shorts, today the opportunities are endless, and shorter attention span has ensured that the short film format is here to stay. The journey of cinema has truly come a full circle. So we'll come back again on 5th of June with the second episode of this engaging conversation with short filmmaker Jasmine Kaur Roy.
You were listening to the weekly program Our Guest, that is broadcast every Monday at 9:15 a.m. Don't forget to tune in next week, same day, same time and same frequency for more on Our Guest. Have a nice day.